Hi, today I'm going to show you how to knit this Snowflake Fair Isle design hat. Let's get started. First of all, please check my description box for all the details, such as yarn, needle, written pattern, and my gauge. This hat, obviously, knit from bottom to top, starting with knit 1 purl 1 rib and add in snowflake-ish Fair Isle design. I really like this design. Super easy design. Anyway, and top of the head slowly decreasing. This is super easy. Took me about 2 to 3 days. And this is the inside of the hat. So double, yarn, obviously, so it's quite warm. Anyway, this is the yarn I use. First time ever, but I love them. Cast on, multiple of 24. I made 96 with NC, means main color. There's an example number, multiple of 24. 48, 72, 96, and 120. Let's make a rib, and you will connect both ends. Make sure you're facing to right side of the stitches. Put the beginning marker and start repeating off knit 1 and purl 1. You just have to be very careful on first row because from the second row you just knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. So make sure repeat off knit 1 and purl 1. Before you start it, as usual, you have to make sure all the stitches are not twisted. And knit the rib until your desired length. I knitted it about 1.5 inches, 1.5 inch. Once you hit the desired length, change the needle and then knit 1 row. While you're knitting 1 row, add markers every 24 stitch. Your cast is multiple of 24, so every 24 stitch you add markers because the Fair Isle design, it's a repeat of 24 stitch. You don't really have to add the markers if you don't want to. However, there's a huge benefit for adding the markers, which is simple. You can actually find the mistake easily. That's about it. But do you know what? This is actually big benefit. You want to find out your mistake somewhere, in between begin marker to, last stitch, or you want to find the mistake within 24 stitch. Definitely you want to find the mistake, soon as possible. Obviously, best way is you don't make a mistake at all, but sometimes it's impossible. So I recommend you to add markers. Now I will start Fair Isle design. As you can see, I changed the color of markers so it's easier for me to, understand you finish one row or not. And from now on, I am going to use two different color. One is main color, still blue, and contrast color, which is CC or C, is white. So my pattern says C1, which means contrast color, one stitch. And these are all knit stitch because I'm knitting round, not in flat. Anyway, row number 1, contrast 1, and main color 5. So C1 and M5. So blue yarn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then C2, which is contrast color 2. So you have to grab the white yarn and then knit 2 with white yarn. And do not pull too hard. If you pull too hard, you create tension. After C2, two knit with blue and one knit with white, and M3, 1, 2, 3. And if you've never done this, just take your time and make sure about no tension, but no too loose yarn. It's hard, but you need to practice. You gotta get used to it. That's about it. So last 5, knit 5 with blue. If you finish with knit 4 with blue, you did something wrong. Okay, this is the reason why I add markers. And you do same thing, one around, and then row number 2. The way I grab the yarn, grab 2 yarn with my pinky finger like that, and main color on top, and then contrast color, I usually grab with 2 fingers. But it's really up to you. You have to find the best way you can knit. Okay, so 1 with blue and 1 with white. So I grab the yarn with 2 fingers, then hook onto the needle and make sure there is no tension. Don't pull too hard like that. Otherwise, you lose elasticity. All right? So, kind of open up the space, as normal. Then hook onto the needle like that. Then knit 1. So if it's short stroke, much easier because, you don't have to pull or anything. If it's long stroke, like, more than 5 stitches away, you gotta be very careful. And one more thing, the group of the 24 stitch, as you can see, M1C1, M2C1, sometimes you get confused. Oh, where am I? Kind of thing, right? If you don't like that, you can kind of, divide by 2. Like, okay, M1C1 slash, then M2C1 slash, M2C2 slash. So it's a little bit better result. And one more thing, if you're using the magic loop technique, don't do this. You pull the needle out and then try to change the color. because sometimes you don't know whether you're pulling too hard or not, pulling enough, like too loose. So needle has to be set like that. Then change the color of yarn. And if it's getting tighter and tighter, you kind of, move around. You know what I'm saying? Don't pull the right needle up just like, regular magic loop technique. That's just my tip. You said I'm okay with it, fine. You can do that too. But if you're a beginner and this is your first time, maybe you should listen to me. Anyway, after this, it's super easy. Just follow my written instruction. The pattern is in my description box until row 24. Design completes row 24. And one more thing. I believe this is row 17. And same, the pattern on the row number 8, just a different color. End of the repeat, it was 8 stitches with blue, and beginning of the repeat, 7 or 8 stitches, which means about 15 to 16 stitches with same color, which means contrast color. Long stroke like that. Sometimes it happens. So I just want you to make sure is that, good tension, not too hard, not too loose. You really have to find out. So I usually, pull a little bit, both way before you knit and creates, enough space, but don't pull too hard, right? There you go. That's the way it should be, okay? Because you want to keep the elasticity, right? So I just want you to remember that. It's hard, but you will get used to. Anyway, after row 24, knit with contrast color until your desired length, which is close to the top of your head, like about 2 inches away. So after the rib, I need about close to 5 inch. So 1.5 inch for rib and close to 5 inch for the head. So I need about 6.5. Then I am going to add 2 more inches. Then close the top of the head. So, if that's yours, put it on and make sure, the right time to decrease. Okay, so I knit enough, about 5 inches, as I told you. And let's talk about decreasing. So I want you to decrease some stitches towards to the top of your head. And I add few markers in between original markers. So 24 stitch in between 2 markers, right? So I add right in the center, which means every 12 stitch I add markers like that. The orange one is the new markers, one around. Because according to my gauge, 28 rows for 4 inches for me. So I want to add 2 more inches, which is 14 rows, right? In other words, I don't want to knit more than 14 rows. Please think about that, okay? Please don't forget about what I just said. So I add markers every 12 stitch, right? And I am going to decrease 1 stitch just before the marker, every marker. You know what I'm saying? So 12 stitch in between markers, and you will ended up decrease 1 stitch before the marker, which means you will knit 11 more rows until one last stitch left in between 2 markers. And I am going to knit 1 row on top of it, so 12 rows, close to 2 inches. So please check your gauge. You don't really have to make the sample. You can actually, count how many rows you have already within 2 inches. For me, 14 rows is about 2 inches, and I know I'm going to knit 12 rows total. So this is the reason I add 1 additional marker in between original markers. Anyway, decreasing already started. Just knit until 2 stitch before the marker, and then knit 2 together. That's about it. And then slide the marker and knit until 2 stitches before the next marker, and knit 2 together to decrease 1 stitch there. So you don't really have to count anymore, but you already know you have 12 stitch in between original marker and additional marker, and you only decrease 1 stitch at a time, right? So you will end up knit 11 rows at least to decrease the stitch until one last stitch left in between those 2 markers. You know what I'm saying? Very simple. Okay, let's say if I didn't add the additional marker, which means 24 stitches in between markers, right? Then, decrease 1 stitch at a time, which means I will ended up knit 23 rows. 23 rows is almost 4 inch. I don't need 4 inch because I already knit 5 inch for the body of the head part, right? So that's how you figured it out when to stop and when to start decreasing. And I am going to say one more time because this is important. And if you know all about this, you can knit hat without pattern from now on. I say stop and think now. I said if your 11 rows are not enough to cover top of your head, which means you want to knit more rows to, the cover your head, right? You know what that means? Means you are not ready to decrease. You need to knit more rows before the decreasing. If you like long, slow carve, the top, you can do that. Just don't add the additional marker, and then just keep the 24 stitch in between markers, and then start decreasing, which means again you will end up knit 23 rows until one stitch left in between markers. You can do that too. So it's really up to you. You have to decide what do you want. So I always tell you, watch my video until the end, then make a plan. Because your design is the pattern. There's no particular pattern here. All right? Anyway, I'm decreasing one stitch there, which means, only one stitch left in between markers. Now, I knit one round, no decreasing. Just remove all the markers except the begin marker before weave the ends off. The reason I add one more round, no reason, really. I thought it was easier for me to weave the ends off. That's about it. Here and there, you can make some arrangement. You know what I'm saying? I decrease stitches until one last stitch in between two markers, but you can stop whenever you want. However, if so many stitches left, which means it's hard to close the top of your head. However, you want to leave it open because sometimes, I see people, do the ponytail and put your hair through the opening. You can do that too, right? Anyway, so I knit one round and now it's time to weave the end. Easy. Cut the, yarn, use the tapestry needle, and just go through. Just, picking up every, stitch with the tapestry needle, and then weave the ends off. If you want to, add the pom-pom on top, you can leave the ends like that, and then you can use that too. You know what I'm saying? There you go. And whenever you weave the ends off, go inside. So nice and smooth, from outside, right? There you go. Go inside and then finish inside so nobody can really see. Anyway, again, if you want to, adjust the sizes, let's say this hat is extra small. It's kind of bit tight for me, for adult women, right? So if you want to make a little bit bigger, you can, use the little bigger size, or you can change the cast number. Anyway, this is the complete project. Beautiful, flower, snowflake like, design, and beautiful decreasing on top. And then inside, there's no loose, yarn hanging, or, no tension. It's perfect. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give your thumbs up, share it, and leave your comment and subscribe my channel. Enjoy knitting. See you next time.